do the things that nobody else wants to do. If it's a crowded marketplace, guaranteed it's not profitable. That's basic, like first year economics. You have to actually care. You have to actually have been in those shoes. And I believe that that's what we have in our business.
Welcome to the Sask Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today we have a very exciting guest, Trent Meyer, who is born and raised in Saskatchewan, working since the age of 9 when he first started his first paper routes back with Star Phoenix. And since then, he's always had a job. So Trent, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So Trent, based on your current role, can you tell us a little bit about where you are now and how you ended up here?
Sure. So currently I'm the president of High Tech Profiles, which is a steel processing company in Regina. High Tech's been around for about 25 years, and I took over about 3 years ago. Majority owned by the Sask Venture Fund here in Saskatchewan, and as well as a few of us on the management team. How I ended up here, it's a long, winding road. I started my career out in sales after my university education. Was not what I thought I was going to get into. I thought that I was going to get into economic development, which was more aligned with my degree, but I needed a job and just took the job that was there and started doing a lot of the things that other people didn't want to do, and through that ended up getting into export work with a number of ag equipment manufacturers, which really gave me an opportunity to see the world from a different point of view, I suppose. And over time, I then transitioned into running a parts and service organization for a large equipment dealership, which really kind of rounded out my experience as far as people leadership and managing a large P&L statement. And a few years ago, PFM Capital, who manages the Sask Venture Fund, reached out to me to see if I'd be interested in joining High Tech as a president and managing shareholder.
That's great. So about your backstory, I find it quite exciting that you obviously went to the University of Saskatchewan over here, but then graduated from University of Guelph. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey as to how you actually ended up coming back to Saskatchewan through your career?
Yeah, sure. So I ended up in Guelph because I was chasing a girl. I was tree planting in the summer in BC and met my now wife, Megan, and quit U of S and moved to Guelph and changed degree paths from business degree at U of S to a Bachelor of Arts at the University of Guelph. And then for about 7 or 8 years after university, we had settled in southern Manitoba. And by the time we moved back here, we had 2 young kids, and I was traveling a lot overseas. And my family's here in Saskatchewan, and my wife's family's in southern Ontario. So we decided that moving to Regina was a good opportunity for us to get a little bit closer to family, and get back to Saskatchewan, which is was a bit of a desire of ours.
That's great. What a journey. But it's good that you're back in Saskatchewan and there in Regina, and obviously, High Tech Profiles, a great company, big, long history. Can you tell us, give me a little bit more insight about what does High Tech Profile do, and what are the services that they provide?
Sure. So some of our clients have termed us as like Switzerland. So we kind of do business with everybody in certain industries. So we're processing steel by cutting it with lasers, plasma, torch. We have a tube laser, we have a router, we have a water jet. So multiple different types of material, but also types of cutting that lend themselves to different operations. And so we're buying flat or long steel and processing it to the specifications of different manufacturers in ag equipment, in industrial fabrication, machine shops, creative industry, signs, and things like that. And a lot of, new inventors, people that are just starting out, trying to figure out how to build something, will come to us and work with us to build what they need. So we're really working with people that are doing $50 in business into the, 7 digits. It just depends on what, who they are and what they need, and we really don't discriminate on size or anything like that.
So quite a range of services in terms of the target audience that is concerned. So that's interesting. And I was kind of going through the profile there, and it seems you're one of the largest companies that processes steel here in Saskatchewan.
Yeah. Because most of the companies are private, we don't really know exactly how big everybody is, and it depends on how you measure it, right? But as far as companies that don't have an actual product, we would likely be the largest in the province, and potentially in Western Canada for a single, or for a multi-location but really smaller footprint organization, for sure.
So what is it that you think gives you that competitive edge in the industry today?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to relationships, whether they're old long-term relationships or they're new relationships. I think we really put a focus on delivering what a customer needs. And it comes down to our people at the end of the day. The culture here has always been, for lack of a better term, a get it done type attitude. And, one story that really sticks out was that early on in the pandemic, there was a company here in Saskatchewan that was subcontracting to build components for emergency hospital beds that were being shipped to the U.S. And on a Thursday evening, might have been a Wednesday evening, they had come to us with some drawings, asked if we could potentially make one sample by the weekend. And by Friday, it was 50 for Sunday morning. And within a week, we were producing 250 beds a week worth of material. And, if we had everything sitting here and we had all the knowledge, that would have been one thing. But we were literally reaching across the country and across North America to buy material and we were redesigning everything on the fly and sending product to this customer, and they'd weld it and paint it and see how it fit and get back to it. And it was a very dynamic situation where over the course of a few months, we delivered thousands of beds worth of material to this company and really helped design it. And, that was a 2 or 3 day ramp up for us. And at the time, it put pressure on our people, it put pressure on our supply chain, but really invigorated our staff as well. And we had people excited to do it. And we didn't have to ask somebody to come in on Saturday to help do the redesign. The people wanted to be here because that's what they are here for, right? That's what gets them going and gets them out of bed in the morning. And yeah, sure, we have certain things that are kind of more pedestrian and less exciting, I suppose, but the opportunity to work on some of these things is pretty darn cool. And I think that really speaks to the culture that we have here, and that would be the recipe for success.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really fascinates me, the agility that you have in place when it comes to somebody coming up with an idea and you being able to serve that customer in such a rapid time frame. I mean, I can understand, like, due to COVID, there has been a lot of, difficult situations for many companies. And it seems that you've definitely helped customers in that phase. So how has COVID impacted Hi-Tech Profiles itself?
Well, I think, at the beginning, obviously, we were like everybody else. We had a bit of a lull, where companies were shutting down, closing for a week or two to try to understand what they had to do to comply with any, both government regulations, but also just trying to understand what they needed to do for their people. But But that really didn't last that long. Really by May of 2019, was that? 2020, May of 2020, we were really
2020.
starting to ramp, and production demands were starting to hit us. And that's not to say that we didn't have challenges, but we're working in a larger work area, multiple shifts. We've got over 100 staff now, but we're really in 3 different buildings over multiple shifts to be able to run 24/7. And so it didn't impact us from a shutdown perspective because we're considered essential. We're serving key industries, including medical. But what I think the long-term impact of COVID is going to be is around reshoring of manufacturing and bringing some things back here, and being a trusted supply chain partner of a lot of larger Saskatchewan businesses. I believe that it's going to really invigorate us over time, and we're seeing some of that already, and I believe that people are going to be less likely, especially in the short term, which I would consider 3 to 5 years to be relatively short term, to put things back offshore, because they see some of the vulnerabilities in their supply chains, and the more they can keep close to them, the better. So that's the long-term impact, I think, is going to be positive for us. One of the other areas that we've really looked at more intently is automation. Obviously, when you have the risk of people being shut down for weeks at a time and that kind of thing, you have to consider it. But fortunately for us, our staff we didn't have any outbreaks here. Knock wood. And we did have people who contracted COVID in our group without any significant negative outcomes, but we didn't have it happen here in our workplace, and we took a lot of precautions prior to government regulation forcing it, and I think that served us well.
So you talked earlier about, having a strong team in place, the culture that you've actually incorporated. It's kind of tough for companies to establish a culture, a strong work ethic, and a culture that really cares about the customer. Do you have any ideas as to how potential companies can actually build a strong culture within their workplace?
Well, I think the first thing that you need is, you need to be authentic, and insofar as, having people that are running the company that have done it, and maybe they haven't done exactly that job, but it's really hard to ask people to work shift work if you've never done shift work, because you don't really understand the impact that it might have on their family and that kind of thing. It's the same with asking people to travel, or if you're asking them to put in a little bit extra time. And I think that having a group on our management team who are, empathetic to the needs of our people, insofar as, we've been there and some of us are still there, that helps, and you can't make that up. Like, that's not something that you can just invent. And that's the mistake that a lot of people who try to replicate something make, is that you can't just say the word, then that happens. And you have to actually have done it. You have to actually care. You have to actually have been in those shoes. And I believe that that's what we have in our business. We have multiple people that have been here since the first year of the business. Some of them are owners in the business now, and they all start out on the floor. So when they ask somebody to do something, they can genuinely say, "I've done that." If I walk through the shop and pick something up off the floor because I see it there, it's because I've had to sweep floors before, and I understand what it's like, and I don't expect somebody else to just do it because of whatever their current position is in the organization. And I think that just moves its way through. And anybody who tries to use position as a piece of leverage and that kind of thing, they fall off really quickly, because people see through it.
I mean, you yourself have been with the company for about 3.5 years, and where do you see the biggest opportunities for the company in the near future?
Well, like I said, some of the onshoring opportunities that I see are pretty obvious. We're constantly evaluating new technologies, new services, the types of things that maybe don't make sense for one company to bring in and invest in, but if we spread them across 100 companies or 500 companies that we're doing business with, then we can justify investing in it. Those are the types of things that things like 3D metal printing and other emerging technologies that I believe are going to change the way that we look at manufacturing and the way that we look at product development are likely where high tech will end up trending towards over time, for sure.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were one of the first companies to incorporate laser cutting technology. Is that correct?
Yeah, I want to say it's about 25 years ago that high tech got its first laser, and it's not what they had at the beginning. It was a plasma a shear and a brake, and that's all they had. And then they got a plasma and a laser, and more brakes so laser has been around in our business since near the founding of it. But 5 years ago we brought in a tube laser, and that was a product that there was nobody else in Saskatchewan that had it out for hire as opposed to internally in their business, and it took a long time to build that up as a desired service here in Saskatchewan and beyond. But over time, companies have learned how to design around it, and that's kind of the flow that we have. And today we're adopting newer laser technology, faster, better, higher quality, more automated, and bringing other things to the forefront as far as services around metal processing. And with our newer facility in Saskatoon, we've got the ability to process other materials like plastics and carbon fiber and that kind of thing that change the dynamics of our business.
So obviously investing in tech has been a key piece in advancing you forward as a company, and innovation is really a key area that helps you achieve success. Do you find that the technology itself is changing now in your industry over the next few years? It's going to be rapidly changing, or is it just evolving at a standard pace as it was before?
Well, I think, a handful of years ago, fiber laser technology, which is just a way of delivering the power to the laser cutting head, was a bit more experimental insofar as it wasn't as stable, and it seems to have stabilized now, and the amount of power that they're putting to those heads has started to grow substantially. But I'd say it's advancing faster than what it used to, but it's also a lot easier for us to adopt because we've got a larger workforce, a younger workforce that understands technology on a different level than maybe some of our older staff do, and but everything's a bit more user friendly as well. And the benefit that we bring, I guess, or that we have, I guess, is that we're spreading that investment over a larger company today. And I think the real guts was when people, my predecessors 25 years ago were putting it all in to bring in technology that most of their customers told them that nobody needed. So now when we bring something in that everybody says they don't need, the risk is a little bit lower because we've got a bigger business base under it, and behind it. But I don't know exactly how to answer that other than to say I think it's moving faster. It's not tech industry fast, I wouldn't say, because there are a lot of mechanical moving parts that need to be tested out in a different way, and you can't just kind of beta test and go, and it's got a greater risk for downtime and that kind of thing. But I would say that it's moving faster than it did in the past, for sure.
For sure. So obviously in today's climate and as we're going through this pandemic, businesses are really struggling in surviving and basically, helping them grow. What I get from high tech profiles is that, obviously in addition to the customer loyalty that you have, as well as the corporate culture and the investment in technology, are there any other suggestions or any other ideas that you can provide to our audience that would help them grow in this market today?
Well, I think one of the first things is to turn off social media, which I admittedly have a problem with. Just because there's a lot of negativity out there, and I think that, I look at some businesses that still are, operating like there's a war zone outside their door. I don't buy that. We've operated all the way through safely, asked our staff to buy into, the safety protocols that we're promoting, and in exchange they get to have a job. Because if they didn't, they might not have a job if they didn't buy into it. So, I think that, listening to the important things matters, but there's a lot of noise out there. But really digging into where you provide value is to your customer is gonna serve you well, whether we're in a pandemic or whether you're in growth mode. You can't be doing wasteful things. They might feel good, but if they don't pay, and something else it doesn't pay for them, you need to shed that, especially when things are tight. And we did some of that. We got more competitive in ways that that mattered to us, and they trimmed certain things from our risk, and whether that was just getting rid of certain things, ways that we bought things, ways that we communicated with customers, ways that we priced things, or something less, something more basic, like just what we provide our people, and there's always a way to get things done. I think that again goes back to our culture. Last year, obviously nobody had any Christmas parties, but we still thought that it was important that we celebrated with our staff. So instead of getting together, we actually did an at-home Christmas party where staff got to pick there were 3 nights where they could pick where a local restaurant would deliver out of a selection of menu, 3-course meal and a bottle of wine or a 4-pack of beer, and things that we couldn't have a Christmas party, not in person, but we made it happen. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the type of attitude and the type of approach that you need to take with your business as well, which is, if there's something standing in your way, like, how do we get around this? It can't always be just, okay, we're just going to shut down for a while. Eventually that catches up to you.
So true. I think that that's actually a really valuable lesson. I think a lot of businesses that did shut down, they realized that, they have to come back. They have to, find a method to keep things going and in a safe way. And obviously a lot of businesses, depending on the industry that you're in, have suffered. And some have chosen to pivot drastically from what they were doing before. But you have to evolve with changing times. I think that mindset is really important. And then taking care of the people that are actually working for you, I think, is a key piece, which I think you've highlighted quite prominently there. So I think that's a very, very important factor. So if you were to go back 10 years, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Well, I mean, it's hard because I think that you learn something from everything that you do, and I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't do all the things that I did. But on some level, I think that I'd tell my 10-year younger self to bet on myself earlier. I probably hesitated a couple of times before I really, put my money where my mouth was. I always said I wanted to be an owner and run the whole business and do it all. And it's hard. It's not for everyone, but I think that it would have been wiser. I'd probably have more money if I bet on myself earlier. I don't know if I'd be happier. So, but that's probably what I'd say.
Okay, that's good. So based on your experience and the challenges that you've overcome over the years, if there was one big takeaway that you could give to our listeners, what would that be?
Do the things that nobody else wants to do. Do the things that aren't opportunity of the day or the cool thing. That's not where the money is. The money's in the things that most people don't want to do. If all your friends are getting into into an industry, it's probably not that profitable. So really that's how I built my career. I got into export work because nobody else wanted to do it. Eastern Europe was blowing up with ag equipment opportunities. And we were, at the time, this was in the around 2005, we'd come in the morning and there'd be all these faxes all over the floor of bid requests for ag equipment in Russia. And I just started doing it because nobody else wanted to, and that's literally how I got into it. And I think that if you do it from a business perspective or personally, if you're doing the things that nobody else wants to do, you're either going to be learning some valuable things or you're going to be going down a path where, that's where the money lies. That's where the profit is because nobody else wanted to do it. And if it's a crowded marketplace, guaranteed it's not profitable. That's basic, first year economics.
That's true. So final question, Trent, where can people find out more about yourself and contact you online?
Well, myself, I'm reasonably active on LinkedIn, but our company, High Tech Profiles, www.hightechprofiles.com. We've got an Instagram page, a Facebook page that, depending on the time of year, are more or less active. But those are the best ways to track us down, and I'm always open to sit down with people that are new to the industry or not in the industry and wanting to find out more, for a coffee or take people on tours of our facility here in Regina or Saskatoon. We're really an open book in a lot of ways.
That's great. I'll definitely make sure that we include a link to the website as well as your LinkedIn profile. Sure. But thank you so much, Trent, today to take the time and do this interview. It's been actually a pleasure to chat with you and learn about your background and High Tech Profiles. We wish you the best and take care.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to Sask Entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a spark of inspiration. To catch more stories and lessons learned from Saskatchewan's business leaders, visit SaskEntrepreneurs.com. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep Saskatchewan strong. Ciao.